Hey everybody, today we will be discussing a article, um, Designing Better Energy Matrix for Customers by Larrick, Soll, and Keeney. This um, scholarly review examines four principles that could be used in crafting better energy metrics for customers. The outline of today's presentation, we will begin with an introduction. We will look at some of the problems that require interventions. Although not indicated in this paper, we are also going to take some of the decision errors that we discussed in class earlier in the semester and apply them to the core principles laid out by the authors. And we will have a discussion about some of the policy implications, and we will conclude with some discussion questions. This scholarly review was conducted by professors at a business school at Duke University. The principles that are identified by the authors for the purpose of this presentation, we will be using them as interventions to aid customers in their decision-making process for energy products by simplifying energy metrics. The studies that were utilized in this scholarly review focused on presenting customers with different types of energy information and examining how they made their decisions based on that information. Any of us who has ever purchased a car, looked at our home energy bill, or looked into purchasing a AC unit, you know all too well that there are an abundance of choices for us customers. The problem is that the energy metrics that are currently being used may not provide us with all of the information that we need presented in a way in which helps us to make better informed decisions. The authors go further by presenting two important questions that we have to figure out. What energy information is needed and how much of that information is the right amount. Further, we need to see how we can apply the different decision errors to the core principles. Let's take a minute to discuss the core principles. When it comes to energy metrics for customers, providing consumption metrics rather than efficiency information, objectives, which focuses on linking energy related information to objectives that to people's values. Relative, focusing on expressing information relative to meaningful comparisons. And expanding, which is providing information on a expanded scale. One of the first decision errors that we see is over optimism, which, when it comes to the use of current energy standards, over optimism occurs in this context likely because efficiency standards are often utilized incorrectly by customers because the math that is done is incorrect and the lack of information being being conveyed and the lack of information being conveyed clearly to customers. When we talk about energy efficiency, we're basically talking about utilizing less energy. In an experiment conducted by Larrick and Soll, they presented respondents with two options for a vehicle. One vehicle had a MPG, or miles per gallon, rating of 15 to 19. The other vehicle had a MPG, or miles per gallon, rating of 34 to 44. 74% of those individuals picked the 34 to 44 mile per gallon vehicle. But when you look at the actual consumption of those vehicles for this experiment, which is based off 100 gallons per mile. I'm sorry, when you look at the actual consumption for this experiment, which was based off gallons of gas consumed per 100 miles, the vehicle that had the 34 to 44 miles per gallon only saved about 0.7 gallons of gas per 100 miles. The vehicle that was rated for 15 to 19 miles per gallon saved about 1.4 gallons of gas per 100 miles per hour. And the graph at the bottom of the screen, you can see the difference. The dotted line shows you the MPG for 34 for the vehicle that had the 34 to 44 MPGs, and that shows you that there was 0.7 gallons of gas saved, and the solid line coming up from the 15 to 19 miles per vehicle that had the 15 to 19 miles per gallon, you can see that it saved 1.4 gallon. It saved about 1.4 gallons of gas per 100 miles per hour. It is clear that the efficiency standards used, in this case miles per gallon, did not adequately represent how much gas was actually being saved. The consumption standards would likely be would properly display the proper direction of savings and provide better insights on the level of that improvement. The current energy metrics makes customers vulnerable to narrow banding decision errors. Basically, customers will be too narrow in their choices, and they will make decisions without considering consequences of other choices. To broaden the scope of core principles, emphasize providing energy information that is aligned with personal goals of customers, which could be things like cost and the impact of energy on the environment. As one researcher argued, using the different translations can help customers recognize and apply their objectives when making decisions on customer products. Looking at the two fuel standard guides, one is from 1993 and the other is a revised that was published in 2013, shows some fairly stark differences. Mainly the 1993 fuel standards gave you the city and highway miles per gallon. The 2013 fuel standard guide provided a lot more information, not just city and highway, but you also received information regarding fuel savings over a multi-year period, and there was also ratings for greenhouse gases and smog ratings as well. Looking at the two, you can clearly see looking at the 2013 one, you can clearly see the choices. You can clearly consider the consequences and benefits of choosing a certain vehicle because you have more information that is much clearer. Current energy metrics can potentially put customers in a position where they are falling into nonlinear probability weighting, where decisions are weighted based on metrics that do not give all of the proper information and are often not meaningful. Information to customers that allow them to make meaningful comparisons is important. In a O-Power study, residential electricity customers were presented with a home energy report which compared their usage to that of similar neighbors, meaning age of the home, size, local weather conditions. The study showed that customers who saw their energy usage in comparisons to their neighbors were motivated to reduce their energy usage. Current energy metrics can have customers fall to the present bias because customers are looking at relatively short windows in terms of time. When it comes to evaluating the cost of their energy, they're looking at a very short window of time. Customers need to see what their energy costs look like over a greater period of time. A study by Hisley found that when customers are presented with cost information over multiple years, they will be more likely to purchase more expensive products, but that were also more energy efficient. So the study shows, when information is presented to customers, they will be more likely to spend the extra money because they see that they're going to save more money over time compared to the initial cost that they have. So they see the value of the current investment over time. Let's discuss some policy implications. Regulatory agencies should consider moving away from efficiency standards and towards consumption standards. This represents basically a change in the way information is presented to customers. Telling a customer the actual consumption of a vehicle will be a lot more useful than how many miles they can get in the city. Like we discussed earlier, linking energy metrics to broad objectives of the public is something that we should consider. This would likely take form of adding additional information on consumer products, on things may increase or lower versus their current energy bills and their overall effect on the environment. Adopting a standard list of meaningful Adopting a standard list of meaningful comparisons that customers can use to evaluate their energy choices. Finally, providing estimates on energy savings over a multi-year increments, such as 5, 10, etc. A vehicle on a vehicle a person owns the vehicle. On a vehicle, you can do this by saying that over a 2 to 5 year period, you can give them estimates on the cost of fuel, like we saw in the sticker before. They gave them more of a, this is what you'll save over a 5 year period, and maybe being more specific, you can save this amount in year 1, this amount in year 2, this amount in year 3. Again, all being estimates. Simply, according to this review, the current energy metrics do not provide the kind of information or the right framing to allow for customers to make informed energy choices. As I have discussed, this causes customers to fall into a variety of different types of decision errors. The core principles provide the kind of structure that is needed for effective interventions to develop modified energy metrics. These energy metrics are based on the core principles to help customers make better decisions when it comes to their energy needs. Two of our discussion questions. First, the way in which information is presented can be an effective behavioral intervention. Based on your group project, discuss one way you could present information to serve as an effective behavioral intervention based on your project's identified decision errors. 2. Based on your project, what factors would you use in determine how much information to give the general public? I would like to thank you for listening to this presentation, and I look forward to reading through your responses.